My story starts in June 1984. I was 22. I drove myself to the clinic and I drove myself home too. But life became a total blur after that day. But what's not blurry are all the events that I put myself through during that abortion. The waiting room was full. The room was cold and empty except for the basic equipment needed. And the doctor and the nurse are faceless to me now. But I do remember the nurse holding my hand and trying to comfort me. Any negative thoughts I pushed aside. I braved through it all by myself. I'm tough, I thought. I can handle it. After all, they told me it was just fetal matter. And I believed that for 18 years. And that day I was told when it was all over, you'll never have to think about it again. I have read the medical reports from that abortion that I asked for a copy of. That abortion was done in 3 minutes of time. What took God 7 weeks to create was so abruptly taken out in 3 minutes. It was 125 cc's worth, the report said, and that's about 3 to 4 ounces. Well, there were cookies and juice in the waiting room, and what a joke, I thought at the time. I didn't want to hang around or be there and eat anything. I would have left, but I knew they had to check my vitals, so I was forced to stay. At the time, I didn't care how much it was hurt. I was relieved. But that was then, and this is what happened later. In 1998, things really started falling apart. I was drinking really heavy among other things that people would give me. In December of '98, one of my friends died in a car accident. And that night I got really drunk at the bar and told a bar full of strangers, I have had 3 abortions. Somebody help me. But nobody in the bar could. I remember going to the bathroom and crying out to God to help me. And he did. Because after that, I lived through a turn of events that have turned my life around. Thanks to God and Rachel's Vineyard. Sadly, I did have 2 abortions and 1 miscarriage in the span of 4 years after the first one. But I cannot remember a single thing about those last 2 abortions. But I do remember that after the first abortion, I didn't care about myself anymore. You know, I did things to hurt my boyfriend, and I left him and got in trouble with other bad relationships. In the past, women who had an abortion were not allowed to breathe, because after all, we made the choice ourselves. And because of that, we stuffed it so deep down inside, along with the shame, the fear, and the denial. And those are only a few of the symptoms of post-abortion stress disorder. As I look back, I see this destructive pattern that really followed me after that first abortion. I see how sick I was getting and how I didn't know where to turn or what to do. There was promiscuity, low self-esteem, depression, and thoughts of suicide. And I drank a lot to run from the truth. I avoided my family to some degree. But you know, before the abortions, I was deeply in love with my boyfriend. I loved my family, and I did a lot of things with them. I recently was on a Rachel's Vineyard website and found a question from a woman who had undergone multiple abortions, as 40% of us have. I'm just going to share with you a question to Dr. Teresa Burke, and then Dr. Burke, her answer to dispel the idea that women like us used abortion as birth control. I was a young teenager when my parents made me abort. I have too many abortions to count since. I don't understand what's wrong with me. I want to get pregnant. I want to have another baby, she says. The good Lord gave me the strength and courage on 1 pregnancy, which I was blessed with a beautiful child. And I'm happy when I find out that I'm pregnant, that after a few weeks I have such depression. But then, after a few weeks, I have such depression that I end up aborting. I would love more than nothing to give my child a sibling. Now, 16 years married, she states, and she's very financially stable. She still cannot understand. I can't seem to get past the depression, to follow through, and she begs Dr. Teresa to please help her. Dr. Teresa's response is this. One of the first things that will probably help you to understand is that your repeat abortions are actually a symptom of trauma. Repetition is one of the greatest indicators of trauma and the most reliable demonstration that trauma has occurred in your life. This is greatly explained in Dr. Teresa's book called Forbidden Grief, The Unspoken Pain of Abortion. That book has really opened my eyes and helped me bring much healing and understanding to what I went through also. So in that book, she goes on to explain the compulsion and the framework of traumatic experience of the past being repeated in the present with all the same grief, powerlessness, fear, depression, and loss as the original event you suffered as a teenager. And she told her that healing will set you free from this destructive cycle of traumatic reenactments. And she goes on to suggest again her book and hopefully a retreat this woman will attend. So in closing, for me, fear and denial ruled my life for a long time, but not anymore, as I have told my secrets and they have lost power over me, and I am not afraid to be known. I was told a woman in her 80s came to a retreat to find forgiveness and healing, and thank God that she had that much time. She was 80. One reason I chose to abort was pure and plain selfishness with the first abortion. It was something that I hurried into without much thought and about the future and how I would handle it. I really did believe what they told me at the time, that after the abortion that you would never have to think about it again. I suppressed my guilt and fears for a long time to come. And that is why I will be silent no more.